Hey everyone, welcome back, or if you're just joining us, welcome to KSSP Podcast. I'm Spencer.
I'm Katie.
And in this part of our nutrition series, we're going to kind of be talking about dairy a little bit. So with that, we're going to start with casein. So what is casein? Casein is the main protein found in dairy products such as milk, cheese, yogurt, and ice cream, but can be a factor in other foods that are dairy substitutes like non-dairy creamer and margarine. And there's, I think, if I remember correctly, it's like different aspects of casein. So there's A1 beta-casein, and that is milk from breeds of cows that originate usually in Northern Europe and is going to be high in A1 beta-casein. And then for A2 beta-casein, the milk that is high in A2 beta-casein is mainly going to be found in breeds that originate, like cows, from breeds that originated in the Channel Islands in southern France. And there is research that suggests that A1 proteins may be harmful to the gut in ways that A2 proteins are not. And researchers found that when subjects drank milk containing A1 protein, they ended up having more gastrointestinal inflammation. Their thinking was slower and they made more errors on an information processing test. So that's just something to be aware of, I guess. Just something to think about.
So next we'll talk a little bit about casein and mental health. And we're going to be going over this brief part of a study from the NCBI. And so this shows gluten-free, casein-free diets in children with ASD. So there's increasing research into the effectiveness of the GFCF diet in children diagnosed with ASD. Several systemic reviews of GFCF diet studies in ASD have appeared. However, the number of high-quality RCTs is too small for drawing firm conclusions at this point, and there are no meta-analyses available. Overall, the findings with regard to GFCF diet's effects in ASD are mixed. So several studies suggest no effect of this diet in ASD. For instance, a recent study testing the effects of a GFCF diet in children with ASD involving a double-blind placebo-controlled challenge phase did not demonstrate positive effects on measures of physiological functioning, behavioral problems, or ASD symptoms. However, children with known gastrointestinal disorder were excluded, which could have weakened any potential effects. In fact, there is research suggesting that gastrointestinal issues might go together with ASD, behavioral symptoms, and reactions to gluten and casein. So 2 RCTs investigated GFCF diet's effects in ASD by following children with ASD for 1 year, and the data demonstrated positive effects on the GFCF diet on ASD trait measures. However, the outcome measure was based on unblinded caregivers' reports, and the studies didn't control for contaminant treatments that the children may have received while being enrolled in these studies. Furthermore, the attrition rate was nearly 1/4 in one of the studies, which was not taken into account in the analysis. And then there's the elimination diets in children with ADHD. So the effectiveness of food additives exclusion diet as treatment for ADHD has been investigated in a number of studies. Only some studies additionally eliminated food items containing natural salicylates as part of a broader diet, such as Feingold diet or Kaiser Permanent diet. A meta-analysis with a focus on the effectiveness of such elimination diets in ADHD across 20 studies, including 794 participants, found a small effect based on parent reports, 0.18, that decreased to 0.12 when taking into account possible publication bias. The effects based on teachers' reports and observer measures were not significant. However, pooling the data of a limited number of high-quality studies for analyses in this meta-analysis demonstrated small effects on teacher ratings and neurocognitive additional tests. or attentional tests. In another meta-analysis focusing exclusively on ADHD outcomes and more critically addressed assessment blinding issues, 8 studies, including 294 participants, reported an effect size of 0.32 for the most proximal assessment of, and 0.42 for the probably blinded assessments. It's important to note, though, that the effects of this meta-analysis may be limited to children with ADHD who have a sensitivity to food colors, as the participants were often pre-selected on the basis of a suspected sensitivity to food colors during the elimination phase of the diet. Furthermore, rather than an increase in the effect size, additional analysis using only trials with low or no co-medication to exclude the impact of effective medication led to a reduction in the effective size to a non-significant level. So Stevenson et al. Reported that high-quality studies showed an effect size of 0.21 and 0.22 food color elimination. However, these studies were not restricted to children diagnosed with ADHD. So it's been suggested that the effect of food color elimination on behavior is probably not limited to children with ADHD, but it also applies to hyperactive behavior in children more generally. So with regard to oligoantigenic diets, the effectiveness of the elimination phase has been demonstrated in several randomized clinical trials with patients with ADHD. Let's see here. So taken together, it remains inconclusive whether elimination diets are effective as a treatment for children with ASD and ADHD. So far, the evidence for GFCF diets as an effective treatment for children with ASD is weak, but it might be a beneficial intervention for a subset of children with ASD, particularly for those with comorbid gastrointestinal problems. The observed effects for food additives exclusion diets in children with ADHD are small and may not be specific for children with ADHD, although few select studies use most proximal assessment demonstrated large effects of oligoantigenic diets in children with ADHD. An overall small effect of this diet was shown by other studies using probably blinded assessments. So it remains unknown whether children will have a consolidated diet after the elimination phase of the oligoantigenic diet. So this question calls for studies that include food challenges or reintroduction phase in the study design. Double-blind placebo-control challenges or reintroduction phases after positive reactions to eliminations are useful for further investigations to test the effects of food items in a systemic and controlled way. Studies that assess the long-term effectiveness are necessary to draw conclusions about elimination diet's effects in children with ADHD and ASD. So finally, contrary to the most aforementioned work, future studies should adopt the gold standard for clinical trials. So that being high-quality randomized controlled trials with blinded raters for the primary outcome.
Okay. And then we'll move on to aged, fermented, and cultured foods. So fermented foods like plain yogurt with active cultures and kimchi are a great source of live bacteria that can enhance healthy gut function and decrease anxiety, potentially. They have been shown to improve human cognitive function in some studies, and they may protect the brain in animals, improving memory and slowing cognitive decline. And there are 3 potential effects that they think are how this is happening. So chemical byproducts of intestinal bacteria and bioactive peptides may protect the nervous system. The changing gut bacteria may suppress the stress response through the HPA axis. And then neurotransmitters and brain tissue builders such as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, gamma-aminobutyric acid, and serotonin may be increased too.
So with fermented foods and mental health, with anxiety, fermented foods that contain probiotics may have a protective effect against social anxiety symptoms for those at a higher genetic risk. And there's also another study from the NLM. This is association between consumption of fermented food and food-derived prebiotics with cognitive performance, depressive and anxiety symptoms, and psychiatrically healthy medical students under psychological stress. And basically, so the conclusion here really quick, under psychological stress in medical students, consumption of fermented food and food-derived prebiotics appears to be not associated with cognitive performance. High intake of fermented food but not food-derived prebiotics may be associated with severity of depressive and anxiety symptoms. The safety of fermented food in this regard, therefore, requires further clarification.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about just dairy with diet. So if you were interested in like trying it out, there is milk available that only has A2 casein proteins, and then sheep and goat milk is generally A2 milk. You can also try like nut milk and nut milk yogurts if you want to attempt to avoid casein, see if that helps you. And then probiotic rich yogurt is also good with the fermented foods that we talked about, having the good bacteria for you. And it's just important to know that when you do like heat treatment, so for like yogurt covered raisins, how they have to heat that ends up killing the good bacteria. So then you could still eat them obviously if you want, but that just won't have the same effects as eating like yogurt that hasn't been heated or warmed up, I guess. Some other sources of fermented foods include kombucha, miso, tempeh, T-E-M-P-E-H, and apple cider vinegar. And then you can also ferment foods, so like carrots, cauliflower, green beans, radishes, and broccoli. And then I just have here from the USDA My Plate, and it just kind of tells you. So here we have a table that just shows daily recommendation, so how much dairy you should be, or how much dairy is recommended to get daily. And it has toddlers, children, girls, boys, women, men, and then different age ranges, and then cups. And then on that also we have cups of dairy table. So it shows amount that counts as 1 cup in the dairy group, and that has milk, yogurt, and cheese. So you guys can glance at that. That was kind of all we had on dairy. And next we'll be going over gluten, so make sure to join us. And as always, you can leave a comment below if you have any topics that you want to hear us talk about in future episodes.
We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And we also occasionally live stream on Twitch, so you can follow us there if you want to be notified when we do.
And don't forget to like this video, as well as follow or subscribe to our other social media accounts and turn on notifications so that you get notified when our new content comes out. Otherwise, we will see you all in the next video.